So you've got a nice little catchphrase called Wall Street without walls with Web3. So besides the excessive use of W's there, what's going on with that catchphrase?
So the idea there that I think really breaks down what tokenization is in a funny, catchy way is Wall Street has always been kind of a club, right? It's you have to be one of the big banks to play, or you have to have large amounts of money as a fund to be able to really move the market. The little guy, the retail is usually sort of considered dumb money, right? And so what's cool about tokenization, and I use that term with Web3 because that's sort of the catch-all in this case, that tokenization unlocks Wall Street for everybody. This idea that, okay, and this is what's happening, this will happen, there is a disintermediation that will happen because you are broadening the opportunity set. All right, what we're saying is by tokenizing assets, we're going to create digital markets for them that anybody can access in a regulated manner. And therefore, you're going to have more competitors, you're going to have more bidders, you're going to have fairer markets, you're going to have hopefully more liquidity for that asset class before it ever existed. So that's the idea behind tokenization is Wall Street without the walls anymore, because now we can digitally invest into what used to be a club where we're going to get access to all these amazing investment products as individuals.
Well, it sort of dovetails too with the accreditation process. And I know with regulated, even digital offerings, there's accreditation and, know your customer, that sort of thing. But I'm just saying the general idea, like ostensibly, the reason for those rules is, we don't want some school teacher puts her life savings in this offer, into a hedge fund, and it goes belly up and then up, she's destitute. So it's like, only accredited investors can get into some of these things because they can afford to lose that money. But then on the flip side, it's this sort of paradoxical situation where if there's a really lucrative, like, this is all the smart money's going into this thing. But you can only come in if you're rich. No, people who have modest means, you're not allowed to get into this thing that all the rich people think that's where I want to put my money. So it is sort of this interesting bifurcation.
The best returns are in asset classes that are typically not accessible by the individual, by the non-accredited individual. So you're spot on about that.
Okay, so now, but to unpack a lot of what you said there, so this idea of tokenization, again, we'll get into more of the depths of it for the experts out there, but big picture, someone might say, is that kind of like Bitcoin, like what you were talking about a minute ago? Like, what does tokenization mean, and how is that different from cryptocurrencies, let's say?
The CEOs of the biggest asset manager and the biggest bank in the world basically just both were on CNBC saying, hey, tokenization is the future of finance. And they use this word tokenization specifically referring to taking digital or taking these securities, these financial instruments on finance, if you will, on chain by tokenizing it and putting it all on a ledger that everybody can get access to and trust, because finance is so disintermediated and so locked up between different middlemen that the tokenization makes things more efficient. It allows for instant settlement. It makes more transparent with the data, which makes it easier to actually access and do things with. So long story short, it is the future of finance. And if I had to just kind of punchline it, we're killing Excel and PDF. This is how the entire, there are memes about this, of the entire world's infrastructure basically being pinned around Excel and PDF, right? And somebody who's typing on a keyboard. That there are mistakes that happen. There are issues. There are lag times that all get removed thanks to the use of blockchain. And so there's a very big difference between Bitcoin and crypto, where you're using the technology of blockchain, where you're using it for your own token projects. What we're talking about when we say tokenization is the tokenization of finance and putting everything on chain. I think it's crazy to me that basically a little over half a century ago, we had the great paper crisis on Wall Street, where Wall Street had to shut down because we were still relying on paper being traded back and forth to basically manage the accounting. And it just got so built up that it just had to shut down. Like, that was not too long ago. And the solution to that, the legacy architecture, is what we're still using today. And that's why this is the new future.
Okay, yes, that's a good analogy, just to make sure the listeners or make sure I'm getting what your point is. That it's back in the day, at some point, like if you wanted to buy shares at a company, like there was a transfer of paper to show up, those are my shares of stock. And then obviously, as of 1995, you log in, or let's say 2005, the average person's logging into his account and buys some shares. It's not that he's getting mailed anything or even that
Yep.
somewhere else physical papers changing hands. That would be crazy. And we're fine with that. And so your point is that we're now seeing a new revolution, and 20 years from now, no one's going to think anything of it. That you say, oh yeah, I own a bunch of real estate over in Dubai. And they say, well, how do you know? Because here, I got this digital token that represents this thing on the blockchain right there. You can go verify it. So that's what I mean. All the courts recognize that I'm the owner of that piece of real estate in Dubai. And that's the duh. Well, what else would we do? That's so obvious.
Why would you go back to pen and paper if you've got that technology available to you?
Okay, but you're saying what we're moving beyond now is not just the pen and paper. We're moving beyond. So Excel and PDF got rid of transferring parchment with wedding signatures, but now you're saying what they're doing is killing the Excel and PDF.
That's right. The PDFs and Excel sheets, they got to get moved around. There was an incredible announcement by JP Morgan, who worked with Apollo and Wisdom Tree, two major asset managers. And they each basically contributed a fund, if you will, to this pilot, this proof of concept, where they put them all actually on different blockchains, put 3 different funds from 3 different asset managers on 3 different blockchains, and were able to do a rebalancing of the portfolio and basically essentially compare the two between traditionally and on-chain, and recognize that in just a few steps, which we probably would be called clicks, you're actually taking 3,000 operational procedures down to just those few clicks, because there is so much back office work that has to happen on PDF and Excel that everybody needs a copy of, that everybody needs to update, that everybody needs to send around and get approvals and things like that, that for you to rebalance a portfolio, it's incredibly complicated today. Not if it's on chain.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Murphy. Thanks for listening to this clip from the InFi podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, please consider subscribing and share this video with others. We've got new episodes dropping every Friday with more insightful discussions. Stay tuned.